So resilience.
Resilience meant
forward ever, backwards never.
You have to get up.
It's being able to...
doesn't resilience lead to burnout?
persistence.
But as long as you stick to it.
So that for me is what resilient community is all about.
When I think of resilience,
the old definition of resilience.
I would just call it the ability to...
Very tough game. And
so resilience for me means...
Resilience for me.
Not giving up.
I think it's perseverance.
I think it's about giving yourself the grace to make mistakes and fail.
It's like, I love it. It's like my true north, like staying in that true north. There's all the turmoil that can go on and the spinning of setting up a business and being new in business and trusting the process. But if you stay true, and it's like at the start, we're trying to learn our mission statements and what's our vision and what's our, they all help guide you. It doesn't have to be perfect at the start. And again, it'll just constantly evolve. Like what we did on our website 4 years ago or 3 years ago will change again as we evolve, because it's just that stepping stone, right? That launch to get you to where you're going, right? And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So not everything has to be perfect, but doing it helps build on it. Definitely understanding what the vision of your partnership and that you're both doing the same thing, and then putting in some clear guidelines of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, right? If I work long hours, but I'm flexible and it suits me, but your partner might only want to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and have every holiday off. These are the different things that you have to consider.
Well, we are thrilled to welcome award-winning entrepreneur Claire McDevitt to the podcast for this episode. Her most recent and award-winning business venture began only this year. Claire co-founded Fit to Fly in response to the Bermuda Health Council's need for more certified antigen test providers on the island. That business is now a wrap already, less than a year in, because, of course, COVID testing is no longer a mandatory requirement for travel. Wow, talk about a whirlwind business. The company also contributed over $7,000 to local charities because they committed from the start to give a percentage of their income to support charities. We really love that. We're also a business for good, and we love to integrate giving in what we do too. It's very much aligned values there. Meanwhile, Claire's primary business, Healthcare Solutions, is growing and thriving. She started Healthcare Solutions in 2019, focusing on medical organizational management and staffing solutions, after she worked for 25 years as a nurse, a medical administrator, and project manager. Claire consults for and provides services to medical practitioners, and her promise is to manage the health of the medical practice so that doctors and staff can better manage the health of their patients. Love that. Welcome, Claire.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for having me here. That was a very nice introduction.
Well, congratulations on your recent industry award, runner-up in the International Innovation of the Year 2022 Tech Awards. That's amazing. How does it feel?
Yes, it was amazing. It was amazing to get such an achievement. We really worked hard on providing a product and a service that solved the problem. Everyone's busy, and we knew that I had the clinical components, the certified staff. We're certified providers at Bermuda Health Council, and Jennifer, my partner, was the marketing business backend, helped build the website, and then her philanthropy helped us then put it all together. So it was a really, really exciting year. And it was all based on like one article. Jennifer seen an article in the Royal Gazette for a call. She sent it to me and said, hey, you should do this. And I said, okay, let's do it. And she went, both? And I said, absolutely, let's do it together. And that's where we both then met, and we both knew like her skill set and my skill set are very different, but collectively then we were able to build Fit to Fly and provide the service, and ultimately then employment to multiple people and ease of testing as people are going through this stressful time of transitioning from acute pandemic into post-pandemic and regulations easing up.
Yeah, you definitely did. You just saw that need and jumped 2 feet in. That takes a lot of bravery, and to just partner with somebody like that couldn't have been that easy to just make that sort of decision.
Yes, I know. When I knew what I had to do and what Jennifer had to do, and we were both just complemented each other really well. Like, I don't think I would have had the confidence as much to do the back end of like building a web page and getting the marketing out. But I knew what was on my side, which was training people, making sure the regulations, the SOPs and stuff were there. Then I knew I was pretty comfortable in that lane. Working with somebody else is definitely was a trust the process, go with my gut. From previous experiences coming into Ignite, I had a different partner, and it just shows the resilience of it all, of how you can go from one experience and then kind of level up and then go to another experience and work with somebody and be a huge success.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about that previous partnership you had? Because we know that when you started Ignite, you started it with a partner and you went to Ignite. And for those who don't know what Ignite is, it's a business accelerator program. And it really fine tunes your business. I mean, that's what it takes you through every sort of aspect of business. And through that, your partnership changed. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, like it was a really good learning experience, I think, for both of us. We came in with an idea, we interviewed and did our pitch, and then as we both joined Ignite and we went through boot camp, and then as we were going through our weekly checks, we would go in with totally different ideas. We were both not on the same page. We would leave coming out on the same page, but we were coming in on different pages. And eventually then simple tasks were being asked by the Ignite team for us to do, and we were just never able to meet and do it. So the cracks were always there in the sense that we weren't we didn't have the same kind of like vision of where we wanted to go in our business. And then very quickly, which was amazing through Ignite, was that we did the gentle breakup, right? Like it was, they sat us down and said, they're not compatible. You need to sort of, decide pretty quickly before this could go into years of destruction if you don't decide now. And we both agreed at that time that, okay, yeah, you know what, this wasn't the best match really for two of us to be in business, right? So they Ignite sat us through all the different conversations of how to separate, what does that look like, because we were in LTD, what does directorships and all of it look like. And so we went very quickly from starting a business, getting it registered, getting your bank accounts, getting into Ignite, doing all the right things, to breaking it all down and then setting up separately. So we ended up then so in like, I think a space of a year, we had set up 2 companies.
Wow.
I'm going through all the registration process and everything that was with that, and trying to keep true to myself, which was the biggest thing, right? Like, what did I want to do? And I wanted to stay in Ignite and have another experience, because I knew the fundamentals that Ignite were teaching me were going to be the foundation of healthcare solutions, right? That was the building blocks. And with a strong foundation, you can only soar, right? So the amount of education and connection that Ignite were offering, I was just absorbing it all, because I didn't know how to do it otherwise. But the connections and the people that we were meeting help you build on that confidence that you can keep moving forward. So coming in with one idea, going through that breakup and loss, and then building off another idea, but staying true to myself was like a huge, at the time it didn't feel great, but looking back on it now, it definitely makes me feel like I can tackle any problem, right? And go through it and know that it may be painful, but at the end there will be some benefit if I stay true to myself.
Yeah, that's really it, isn't it? I was just going to ask, what's the lesson learned? But I guess that is your main lesson.
Yeah, like you hear it always, like I love it. It's like my true north, like staying in that true north. There's all the turmoil that can go on, and the spinning of setting up a business and being new in business and trusting the process. But if you stay true, and it's like at the start, we're trying to learn our mission statements and what's our vision and what's our, they all help guide you. It doesn't have to be perfect at the start. And again, it'll just constantly evolve. Like what we did on our website 4 years ago or 3 years ago will change again as we evolve, because it's just that stepping stone, right? Of that launch to get you to where you're going, right? And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So not everything has to be perfect, but doing it helps build on it.
Yeah. Geez, so many lessons. And just before we move off the partnership conversation, Claire, do you have any tips for people who are thinking about going into partnership? Because we always espouse the benefits of being in a partnership, because we're very lucky to be in a very good, we just complement each other well. Was there anything from that experience that you took that you might be able to help others choose well?
I think it's that you both have to believe that you're doing it for the right reasons. We were friends, and it's both of you sitting down and knowing that you're doing it for the right reasons, right? If you're doing it because I want to make a positive impact on the community, versus someone who wants to just make as much money as possible, right? There are the things that you would have to discuss and go, okay, where does that lie? Because some of those business decisions you might not be able to make a good business decision together, because if I'm financially driven versus purposeful driven, they're not going to mirror each other, right? Like, and that's just an example of making sure you sit down and go, why are we in business together? Why do we want to be in business? And being best friends or being this is not always the first thing that should be said. Is kind of making sure that your mission for being together is the same. With Jennifer, like, I was very cautious after that, and then I just kept to myself, and I would just, I always protected myself in that respects. And then with the Jennifer, when Fit to Fly came up, it happened really quickly, so I kind of didn't have that much time to like really overthink it. But then I had to be really honest with her and say, listen, I just came from a partnership that was not successful, and I want her to be aware of what my role was in it, and so that she knew what my insecurities even were, my vulnerabilities were, like of being able to trust somebody to go through it. So we put some really good what do you call it, goals, or we put some really good markers in place so that both of us felt comfortable, right? And as we moved into the business. So decisions were made together. We challenged each other a lot. So it wasn't that we were all people pleasing each other. We challenged each other a lot on back and forth, but we didn't sit on it. We kept it very business-like and just kept moving forward. Nothing was kind of like personal. Definitely understanding what the vision of your partnership, and that you're both doing the same thing. And then putting in some clear guidelines of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, right? If I work long hours, but I'm flexible and it suits me, but your partner might only want to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and have every holiday off. These are the different things that you have to consider. Like, someone might not want to be contacted after 7 p.m., but sometimes after 7 p.m. is the only time I can sit down and actually get through my emails, right? So these are definitely all those little things can play in on you when you have a busy life or you've got family and other things going on. They can kind of seep in what kind of like your expectation is of returning emails or calls. Like they all add up eventually if you're not true in the sense of where you want to go.
Yeah, and I'm hearing communication is really key between you as well, right?
Yeah.
For a good partnership, you got to communicate a lot. Like a good marriage, same thing. You got to communicate a lot. Yeah, we get that.
Communication is key, and it's knowing each other, appreciating each other's strengths and also weaknesses, and being able to say, I don't know anything about that, and being okay with that, versus trying to take it on and spend. And like, Jennifer could write a really good article or a really good press release in like 20 minutes. That would take me like 3 weeks of procrastination, right? I just couldn't do it. And I would say that to her, I'm not great at press release, but I'm really good at this. And that's how we balanced it.
I think that's the key to a great partnership, right? Is you having that balance. Because Vicky and we weren't even friends before we started working together. Like, we knew of each other, but didn't know each other. And we came together as business partners, like not really being friends. And I think that helped too, because it was working it out from a business perspective, makes it a little easier. So that's a good lesson learned the first time. Second time, you're like, hey, this is it. This is my boundaries, what I'm good at, what I'm not.
Boundaries. Can you imagine? Learning some boundaries. That was a good lesson.
Super, super important. And just a curious question, going back to your first partnership, when you had to untangle it all, did you have a good legal team helping you out? How did you manage? You're already pretty deep in the business.
We weren't too deep in the sense of, it was like Ignite helped us basically. And then what happened was COVID happened. So we couldn't everyone was in lockdown, like physical lockdown. So even shelter in place was happening. So a lot of stuff had to happen either through email or phone call, which I think also kind of didn't have to sit across the table or do any of those things. But like we did seek legal advice. They sought legal advice, and we just I just wanted I wanted I want fair, like just be fair and just move on. I knew the thing is, when you know that you've got the skill, you know you can build it back up again, right? So I knew that, yes, this was this experience and I'm going to learn a lot from it, but I also know my talent is not being taken away from me. So if I have to go back over and start at ground zero again, I can do it, and that's fine, right? And I knew that, and that's what I just kept reassuring myself. It's like I can just move left and redo it. It's not going to be, it's taken longer, but I've learned a lot from it.
This to me sounds like the incredible example of resilience. I mean, we called it the Resilient Entrepreneurs podcast for a reason, and this is a great story of resilience. How do you define or view resilience, Claire?
Well, I used to say, like in nursing, right? And you do night shift, day shift, night shift, day shifts, and it was always like the bounce back factor. And it was only recently that I connected it to resilience, right? So resilience to me is like, how quick is your bounce back factor in life, right? Whether it's good, bad, or different, right? So I look at, if something goes south that isn't going in the direction, like how quickly can I come back from that? And I don't mean it, I just mean even emotionally, or just how long does it take me to come back up to my line. I also look at, like, how quickly does it take me to regroup, like my team. So if something happens within our team, like how long does that take me to come back? So we get bad news, I'm really conscious of being there for the team. I'll process it, but I want to make sure that they are okay. So like resilience is also like looking at everybody else and taking them into it, because you want to continue to lead. If it's good, bad, resilience, you want to continue to lead in the same direction. I want to be able to know that, I want my team to always know that we're going to get knocked back here and there, but we'll always put our best foot forward. How we communicate and how we react to those decisions is what people will remember us for, and that's the only thing we have control over. And that's how, when I speak to any of my caregivers and they have a good day, bad day, it's like your reaction is the only thing that family member will remember, right? So that's the resilience in it. So some things can be challenging, but thinking of them and what they do, or a busy office or any of that, you just have to try and see it from their side. So I always call it the bounce back factor, basically.
Yeah, it sounds like a ripple effect too. Yeah, like you're leading in such a strong way and helping others to be resilient through your own resilience, and that ripples out into even your patients and your clients. And
it's your attitude. It's like your attitude, like it's your how you approach it. I can take it as a negative and be down in the dumps about it and sulk and lick my wounds for X amount of time, and that's okay to do it. But it's coming back and being right. Okay, what did I learn from this? Like that's ultimately the only question you can ask them is, like, what do we all learn from this, right? And then dissection it from there. And the support network that you may have as well, reaching out to people. Again, I'm not afraid to ask for help, and that's the biggest thing. It's like, if I don't know marketing, if I don't know this, I'm going to ask somebody else to show me, because I'd rather not spend 5 hours down a rabbit hole trying to and just then ask for help and know that I can get a solution really quickly, right? The other things I wrote down was stuff like being grateful is another thing, right? I don't mean to sound soft, but how many people like get to start their business again and get to be in a position where I'm meeting so many people every single day and doing something purposeful and helpful and enjoying it. Like I'm enjoying it. So immensely grateful all the time for what we have done, what we've achieved, and what we're going to learn in the future, right?
Yeah, that I think that's so important. It's not a small thing to take the time to be grateful, to just have a look at your life. Not everybody gets to live this life. Not everybody gets to have those experiences and build what you're building. So what do you do to protect your health, yourself, your sanity, your everything, to be that strong leader for your team? Like, what do you do personally for yourself?
So morning times, I sleep well. I get up in the morning like 5:30, and I take an hour of my own time, basically, where I have a nice porch right where the sun rises. I'm very lucky. I sit there with my podcast, whether it's motivational, and then I love meditation and I love journaling. So I will write down what my plan is, so if we're going into December, I would have started writing some goals and also what I want to attract in. So like if I was looking for like a new mentor in a certain area, to surround myself with more people in this type of field so that I can learn more, and then I do write a gratitude list of what I'm thankful for every day, so that it keeps me grounded. And then I just listen to some really good podcasts that keep me motivated. And then my daughter's up and life starts.
Yes.
What's your favorite
Yeah.
podcast at the moment, Claire?
Oh, anything that's really to do with entrepreneurial business mindset. Like I also like, there's a lot of physicians now who have moved into a more spirituality as well, where they've crossed over science and spirituality. And I love listening to those, because I do believe mind over matter, and health is related to a lot of your mental health as well. So I definitely listen to a lot of those. Then I will have morning motivation, daily podcast on what today should bring. And there's been somewhere I've been like, I wake up and I might be thinking of something outside of just being my normal stuff, and I will go onto a podcast and it'll be about it and how to solve that problem, and it's done for the day. So
Amazing.
Yeah. No, there's some really, good things that can happen in just those quiet moments. So I'm going to continue doing it because it works,
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I love it. Okay. Very inspiring. Very inspiring. So I would wonder, Claire, because I know where you are now as an entrepreneur over the last few years, but what were you like as a kid? Was entrepreneurship in your life way back then? Do you have any stories?
So this is the weirdest thing, right? All my family have their own businesses, and it didn't click with me until 4 years ago when I started to do when I started my own business. When I looked at my family background, all my cousins, my parents, everyone had their own business. So I think entrepreneurship was there, but there was also a strong healthcare lead. And in the 80s, it was like, go get yourself a good job, right? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
So my options were either go get a husband and settle down and have kids, or get a job. So I wanted the job initially because I really wanted to travel the world. So entrepreneurship was definitely there, but it didn't click for me until I came actually to Bermuda. Like, I loved nursing, but I also knew that nursing wasn't my north. I knew, and I love nursing, I love healthcare, but I knew that my nursing wasn't the end for me, right? I didn't want to be like a chief nursing officer. And when I was in one of my actual last employment, they kept saying, oh, be a chief nursing officer. And I was like, no, like, that's just not who I want to be. I knew there was just something else. I knew it was operational. I knew it was something, but it just didn't fall into place until the time was right. But job wise, I always kind of like, healthcare was the biggest thing. As a kid, I had babysitting. I also picked mushrooms. Because where I come from,
what kind of mushrooms?
That's what they
Dare I
should.
ask?
Where I come from, mushrooms are a big product that's growing. So that was kind of like where you started making some money, and then so then babysitting, and then just it went straight into healthcare, nursing homes and stuff like that. So a lot of my aunties are nurses, so it was easy to sort of segue into it, get a job.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I think it's amazing too, because my family are all entrepreneurs as well. And I was terrified of being an entrepreneur. It wasn't something I thought that I wanted, younger in my career. But now I can't imagine not being. But I think having them already being entrepreneurs was helpful, because it wasn't like, oh, what are you doing? Are you crazy? It was like, right. Oh yeah, go for it. You need to make sure you do this tax thing and do that thing and do that. And it was like the advice was coming rather than the questions, which I think does help a little bit.
Right. Well, and the whole idea of starting a business came after, I think, like they say, they hit the ceiling, and I had maxed myself here in healthcare, and I just didn't know what to do. And then the opportunity that came to start the company, I didn't even think I could do it. And it was Christina Scoba, who was in cohort 1, who said to me, oh, I had talked about starting a business, and then she was sharing her story of how she had started her business in Limoncello, and she encouraged me to then just pitch. And I was like, she goes, it doesn't cost you anything, just go and pitch and see if it'll work for you. And sometimes it's the idea, but it's also the person behind the idea, right? So yeah. I had this idea, I pitched it, and here we are 4 years later, right? So take the risk. If you don't take the risk, that's the only thing you kind of regret not doing. Like, what if? There's no point anymore. Like
so true. And just before we started recording this podcast, we were talking a bit about networking and how
about risk.
Yeah, about risk. That's what reminded me. So we were kind of saying that, networking can be a really scary thing, even though we're very confident in what we're doing in our business. To go into a room full of strangers, personally, I can think of nothing worse. I would by far rather jump out of a plane than do that. I'm getting much better at it now, but it was interesting to hear you had some similar thoughts on that.
Oh, so even before I went to the Bermuda Tech Awards after we won the award to see maybe, I'll hear the next idea, start meeting people, and just really put myself into that space. Though one of the other things that Jennifer taught me was just to come out of the weeds for a little bit and see what's going on around you so that you can connect with people and see what's coming up. Nothing's a secret. You just have to hear the message at the right time. And we bought tickets to go to the Bermuda Tech Summit. And then Jennifer couldn't make it, so I was going by myself. And I sat there. I went every day for the 3 days, and I didn't understand anything that they were saying. And I was Googling abbreviations and words that I had never heard before. And then I eventually on the third day, kept saying, I have to talk to somebody. I have to talk to somebody. I have to talk to somebody. And I eventually spoke to somebody, and he very kindly said, before I even said anything, that he had no clue what was going on. It was all too high level for him, and he was a lawyer. And I was like, oh my goodness, thank God, I'm not alone here. And I said, we had this moment of connection, because I was like, yes, I feel the exact same. I have been Googling like half these words. I don't know what any of it means, but I'm glad I'm here. And then I broke the ice for me. So then the next person I could speak to, and then the next person I could speak to. But it did take me some time, but it's like the whole idea of being uncomfortable. I knew that it was not my scene. If I walked into a room with healthcare workers, no problem, I could talk for days. But I knew I was going to be really uncomfortable. And I just knew that I just had to do it, because I knew it's the only way I'm going to continue to learn, right? It's the only way I'm going to see what's going on and get out of my comfort zone and just be around, right? But that even stems from, and I'm not joking when I tell you the story, when I was working at the hospital as quality and risk manager, I had to give a lot of presentations to the managers. And my Irish accent is very fast. And when I'm nervous, I speak really fast. And my boss recommended that I go to Toastmasters. And I went to Toastmasters for 6 months, and I did not speak.
I love that.
Right? I think that's like literally one of my stories now, but I couldn't bring myself to speak even at Toastmasters. So I left pretty quickly, and it's one of my stories that I share, because I go to We Speak as well now, and I go every year, and I try my best to just keep improving on being able to be comfortable in a room and hold that conversation and just make that connection with people. Like on a one-to-one, no problem, but in big groups, it's always hard, but there's always somebody else feeling the same way. I suppose that's what the lesson here, right? And then we're not alone.
Yeah, I dare say you've broken the ice now, having been on a global podcast. It's just the beginning. When we see you on a stage of an audience of thousands, we'll remember this moment.
I did put it on my wish list, like TED Talk, but then I put a smiley face beside it, like ha ha ha.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Look forward to that day. Yeah. So, Claire, just in summary, what do you think is one of the most important concepts for success in your experience?
Oh, that's always a hard question, right?
Yeah. Give us the one secret.
I know, right? I think it's each moment in time. I think for me, it was like knowing when to ask for help and being okay with that. Delegating the big stuff out, whether it's marketing or finances, right? There's no way you can know it all. You can't do it by yourself. I can't do it by myself. I don't want to do it by myself, but you can't do it by yourself. It can be a lonely journey. So if you're not engaging with other people, and you can easily get into that smaller world. So that's kind of why I go to the summit or go to places to network, so that you don't feel so isolated. And then staying true to myself. When I looked at the question, I was like, is it really what is success? What does that actually mean? I don't know. Today is successful because I'm talking on a podcast without being too nervous, right? But staying true to myself, right? So not having those boundaries of people, and I know we use those words, but having those boundaries of people and not just going off in one direction just because. What really is impactful, and what is it that I want to do? One of my core beliefs is I want to have one solution that impacts the world in a positive way, right? I say that every time. I always have one simple solution that will have a positive impact on the world. And then just staying true to that and whatever that looks like. Did I think that would be like antigen testing? No, right? But that's what landed there, right? Like I thought antigen testing, when we talked about it with friends and family, like they were like, oh, it's been done. COVID's over. You won't need it. But at the end of the day, we were going onto Zoom where people were really fragile, right? There was people, they were crying when they found out they were positive, and you were talking to them and kind of like reassuring them that they were going to be okay. We were like testing brides on the day of the wedding when they were nervous about going in. We had kids going back to school who didn't want to have COVID testing, and you're doing all the like the funny faces just to try and see if we could get the test done. I even had like, and I'm not joking, we even had some people in Hooters because they were flying out the next day to have us on Zoom. Right, doing antigen testing because they didn't want to interrupt their party. I mean, we got to see and I could meet so many people through that one experience, right? So successfully getting them on a flight. Some people got to the airport, didn't realize they had to have an antigen test, and we were able to provide that service in the bathroom in an airport, get their certificate to them so they could get on the flight, right? So there's so many of those amazing stories that we got to be on, or gentlemen who can't use Zoom, right? Or has a phone to his ear. You're trying to, talk him through it. So I think even learning to give clear instruction over Zoom was also like a massive lesson learned. Even one where a lady booked her test, had no camera. So I had to friend her on Facebook and then do video messaging on Facebook to get her into, because she didn't know how to work Zoom. So like we went above and beyond of trying to make sure that everybody got their tests. But the amount of people that we met through it was it's really inspirational to see them. But very vulnerable moment as well for some people, and that's what COVID created and caused, and then they would be thankful to know that you're always there. Like our last week or 2 weeks of COVID testing was the hurricane, and we had 7 tests to do during a hurricane on that Friday morning, and we lost electricity. And I have a picture of where I've got a headlamp and I'm doing the COVID testing on my phone with people in the US because they didn't realize there was like a proper hurricane coming, and they didn't want to cancel their tests, and we didn't know what it was going to be like. So I've got head torch on and COVID testing them on my phone, like through Zoom. And then getting Jennifer to send out the results because she still had electricity and Wi-Fi, right? Because I'm the nurse, I'm the clinical component, she was back in. So that was also another good experience, that we were willing to just, whatever it takes for you to be on a flight without any stress, that's what Fit to Fly was offering every single time.
Whatever it takes. Claire, these stories are amazing. Wow, I can't even. And I have a feeling that's going to be one of those dots you'll connect back in the future, and you'll be like, oh, this has happened because we went through that experience of Fit to Fly and all the individual experiences you've had. I imagine there's a lot of people that have a lot of love for you for going through all of that with them and helping them. That's very cool. So I just want to ask one last quick question. What's the best part about being an entrepreneur? What's the one thing you love the most?
This stuff right here is meeting other entrepreneurs and being on podcasts and being able to share your story and hopefully connect with somebody, or something that I will say connects with them and they know, okay, I'm not alone in this. The flexibility, I work hard, right? No doubt about it, but I love that I can pick my daughter up and I can have that quality time with her, and then I can log back in, work-wise, in the sense of after she goes to bed, or can manage it and manage my time myself. And also just the growth. I'm not saying there's no growth in nursing per se, but like just that expansion, right, of what you're capable of doing as an entrepreneur and business owner, like that just blew my mind. Like I'm doing things that I never thought I would have confidence, or that was just like what other people did, and not what we do or what I do or what you guys do, right? It's a constant learning, and it's just getting bigger and bigger, and it's fun. I don't ever hate the moments. I learn from them. Any failures, you just learn what happened. And the good thing about nursing and quality was, like, I'm so used to like plan, do, study, act, plan, do, study, act. When we're evolving in each little project, I plan, we do, we study it, and we act and we change. And we're going through that with a new project right now. My office manager is going nuts because she's not used to it. She's perfectionist, where I'm like, we make the little mistakes, but we change and we don't do it again. And we just keep building on it that way. And then if something bad happens, I always go back to what's the root cause, what happened. Normally it's a communication issue, and how can we rectify that? And I know there's always a tool that we've been taught somewhere in our whole lives that can help us really look at what's going on and just keep going forward. Nothing's the end. And if it's the end, then it's like fit to fly, right? We got nominated for the awards, and literally 24 hours later, the government announced that COVID testing was not required anymore. So we went through 24 hours of like, yeah, look, we got nominated for award, to like, oh, and the business ends in like 30 days. So
Thanks.
so that's just the roller coaster. But it just means that that there's another idea coming for sure, and what we've learned in this one will just help us build a better product the next time.
I have no doubt in my mind that you have another idea up your sleeve. And I'm not going to ask you to reveal it on this episode, but when it comes, we just may talk to you again. I'm looking forward to it. And it just makes my heart sing to hear you talk about how the growth and the expansion that we get as entrepreneurs. That's like my personal mission, and it's our business mission, is to for people to be able to fulfill their potential. That's it. We go through life and we have so much inside of us, so much that we can achieve. And, a lot of people don't ever really get a taste of what that is. And it's remarkable that we get to do this as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no, it's true. Some people are skyrocketed into it sometimes on fear, or it could be the only reason, or fear keeps you back a little bit, just holds you back a little from taking that risk. And it's just,
we get to choose.
Having faith, faith or fear. It's one of those. You have to choose that you've got faith in it and it's going to work, or fear will hold you back and you never try.
Yeah,
that's how.
Thank you, Claire. This has been a fantastic conversation. Always love chatting with you, and you're so full of energy and great wisdom. And I hope that our listeners just got so much out of this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Because you knew this was hard.
And that's why we appreciate you doing it.
I would never have done it 4 years ago when we first met.
That's great. Thanks so much. Thanks for joining us on Resilient Entrepreneurs, and please subscribe to this channel to be notified of each new episode. We love supporting entrepreneurs, especially with mindset, marketing, and motivation, which is why we feature entrepreneurs from all walks of life in various stages of business. We hope their stories will inspire and encourage you to keep doing what you do well with resilience. We've also created this space for an incredible community of business founders who meet weekly in our membership called the Level Up League. If you want to know more about it, look us up online at 241branding.com. See you next time.